Between the frames. Reading the unspoken language of Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson. We live in a culture that believes everything meaningful must be said. But people, and especially those accustomed to being in front of the camera, communicate in more subtle ways. They speak through their breath, through their distance, through their glances. In that space between Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson, a language has emerged that has both intrigued and bewildered the public. Nonverbal, unscripted, and often misinterpreted. This article doesn't seek confessions. It seeks mechanisms. How small signals are amplified into a big story. How nonverbal synchronicity can exist without, and without wanting, to be labeled. 1. When the gaze becomes evidence, though it shouldn't. In joint interviews, cameras often capture very brief moments. Jamie looking at Dakota when she pauses. Dakota held her gaze for a moment longer before turning back to the questioner. These moments were brief enough to escape control, yet long enough to trigger interpretation. The issue wasn't the gaze, it was the viewer's expectation. When the public expects a story, they look for evidence in the most subtle places. The gaze, a social reflex, checking for agreement, confirming the rhythm of dialogue, was interpreted as emotional innuendo. The subtle became sensational. 2. Silence, the most misunderstood language. Silence often makes the viewer uneasy. The media fills that void with speculation. But in human communication, the familiar silence is a sign of safety. No need to speak to maintain connection. Between Jamie and Dakota, the pauses after laughter don't carry a dramatic charge. They are stable. They aren't in a hurry to fill it, because there's no pressure to prove anything. The silence here is functional, not a message. 3. Professional intimacy versus personal intimacy. Actors develop a form of professional intimacy, the ability to read their co-stars' microsignals to ensure safety, rhythm, and authenticity. This is especially evident in projects requiring a high degree of trust. Professional intimacy is not synonymous with personal intimacy, but when the camera captures that fluidity, understanding eye contact, perfectly timed smiles, the public easily conflates the two concepts. That conflate creates a narrative that doesn't belong to the people involved. 4. Micro skills. What small gestures say, and don't say. Adjusting posture when the other person speaks, often a reflex of attention, not a sign of possessiveness. Lowering your voice when responding directly, a communication strategy to avoid interruption, not an intimate whisper. Delaying eye contact before looking back, processing information, not avoiding emotion. These micro skills have a communicative function. When taken out of context, they are assigned overly emotional meanings. 5. The public as a third party. Every public interaction has an invisible participant, the public's gaze. It causes those involved to adjust, standing a little further away, smiling a little less intensely, choosing more neutral words. These adjustments are then interpreted as tension or subtlety. In reality, it's professional discipline. 6. Media and the exaggeration effect. Rumors thrive on repetition. A moment is cut out, a headline is attached, and then it comes back as evidence for that headline. This closed loop makes nonverbal signals, which are inherently ambiguous, appear certain in the reader's eyes. The truth. Ambiguity isn't a secret. It's just ambiguity. 7. Synchronization needs no interpretation. Some people work together long enough to be in sync on the rhythm. When to speak, when to pause, when to let the other person finish. This synergy reduces noise, not increases it. When synergy is interpreted dramatically, it loses its original function, to facilitate smooth dialogue. 8. The emotional weight of being misunderstood. Constant misunderstanding creates emotional fatigue. Not because the story is wrong, but because there's no way to fix it without making the story bigger. Many people choose consistent silence as a safeguard. Silence here isn't about concealment, it reduces damage. 9. when respect is read as something else. Speaking of each other with concrete respect, discipline, preparation, listening, is the language of colleagues. But in a dramatic environment, respect is read as repressed emotion. This is the paradox. The more mature you are, the more easily you are misinterpreted. 10. The body learns from pressure. Under prolonged scrutiny, the body learns to restrain itself. Smaller movements, shorter expressions, more controlled gaze. When the camera captures this restraint, it's interpreted as electrical charge. In essence, it's self-regulation for survival. 11. Not every connection needs a name. Some connections thrive best without labels. When labeled, they are drawn into expectations, comparisons, and conclusions. Not labeling allows them to maintain their natural form. 12. Distance as care. There are periods when they appear together less often. This distance is often interpreted as a breakdown or a PR strategy. But distance can also be care, allowing each person to develop independently, reducing the loop of interpretation. 13. Rereading the gaze, an exercise in. Try rereading A Moment of Respite without a title, without background music, without commentary. Just observe the rhythm. Often, what remains is healthy normalcy, not drama. 14. Where is the emotional truth? The emotional truth lies not in what they are to each other, but in how they protect their boundaries. Protecting boundaries is a kind of profound dignity, towards the other person and to oneself. 15. When the media misses the most important thing. The most important thing is often missed, clarity. Year after year, their reflexes don't change. No fueling rumors, no exploiting shared memories, no emotional displays. Consistency is the strongest, and least noticed, data. 16. Connection without professional skill. Reading micro-signals is an actor's professional skill. When this skill is romanticized, we inadvertently diminish professionalism. 17. The story has no explanation for the workers. Outside the characters, the models they assign, exist people working together with disciplined kindness. The wordless story is there, no noise, no need for confirmation. 18. The value of work is constantly monitored. Small variables are monitored and weighed heavily. Nature must be accompanied by calculation. This doesn't connect deeper, it makes the expression achieved should be economical. 19. When the viewer learns to look slowly. Look slowly, and use it, to allow the functions before the forum. Check the light to check the pace. Silence to write. Smile to reduce tension. No need for more story. 20. Extended conclusion. The nonverbal signals between Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson are not the question to be resolved. They are traces of healthy coordination under force. When we stop labeling, what emerges is enduring normalcy, rare in an environment of exaggeration. Conclusion. Preserve the frame. Sometimes, the kindest act is to preserve the frame, no cutting, no exaggeration, no added music. Within the frame, the light and space return to their proper places. Tools of human communication, not relationships for another story. And perhaps, that is the most honest way to respect a connection, to let it be itself.